Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe Daddy's Garage. It is Monday, March 23rd, 2026. I know I've been doing my live streams on Sundays, and I guess that's still debatable as to whether that's going to work out or not. It was working out good for me, and I know it's helping other people who have full time jobs, live on the West Coast, and they can't just check in or, stop doing what they're doing to get on the live stream. And so that's kind of why I was pushing for that on Sundays. Unfortunately, I didn't really think about this much, but though the weekends are also the only time that like our families or our family, our kids and grandkids are more readily available, let's say. So I'd planned to do it yesterday, and I kind of forgot that we had made plans to help out our younger son with some stuff at his house. He had moved in, I don't know if it's been 5 or 6 months ago now. I don't remember exactly. We helped him move in. And, there's some things that needed to be addressed, and he asked for my help. And of course, as I say, family comes first. So we went up there. He lives about an hour and 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes north of us. And I tried to do the math and say, well, if I do this and take care of what he needs done and then, drive back, can I make it in time for the live stream? And the answer was no. So we just elected to just not even do it. And the other thing, for next week may not be a good Sunday night either, because we also celebrate all of our kids, our daughter-in-law, fiancés, girlfriends. We celebrate their birthdays. And so next week we're also planning a birthday celebration for our daughter-in-law. So again, next Sunday may be out as far as that goes. So Monday we can definitely do Mondays. We know that I've been doing this on here for quite some time. And then the other thing, in the next couple weeks, we're going to be out of town, going to visit my mom and my wife's parents and my dad, and check up on things and see how she's doing. So that would be the weekend of the 10th or 11th, whatever it is. May not have a live stream on that weekend, so it would be April 12th or 13th. The only way I could pull that off is if I did it on my phone, and I haven't tried that yet. I could probably do it, but I just haven't tried it yet. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if I can, or if I'm willing to do that while I'm visiting family. That's the challenge. So welcome to the live stream. If you're new to this and you haven't seen my live stream before, I talk about cars, and I talk about cars between about 1955 to 1980. That is my bracket of knowledge. And I mean, I do other stuff too. I've worked on everything up into 2000 to 2020s. I worked on all kinds of stuff, but my favorite time period of is about 55 to 80 or so. And if you watch my channel, you know that I work on Mustangs for the most part. Become known for that. I do work on other stuff. I've done maintenance stuff on many vehicles, brake jobs, and changing spark plugs and various other things, steering boxes, and all kinds of stuff, covering a wide variety of cars and trucks. So if you haven't seen that, or you're looking for that information, there's probably something on my channel, whether it's an alternator for a Honda Odyssey or a rack and pinion for a Dodge pickup. There's a bunch of different stuff out there. But I think I've become more or less known for my Mustang stuff. And I'm going to continue doing that as much as I can, and try to get more stuff going on the channel with that branding in mind. So, welcome to the live stream once again. As we go through this tonight, I encourage you to be involved. I ask you to ask questions, or if you have a subject matter or something you want to talk about, give me some ammunition. And because a lot of times I'm sitting here and I'm trying to think of stuff, because I don't write stuff down. I don't keep track of ideas. I just come to the top of my head and I start going. So anyway, if I can help you with that, I will. If not, there's a great group of people in the chat box on the side over there, and they have more often than not helped out as well. Excuse me. Now, I left off with the last video for Fangled and starting to get some stuff figured out. I've talked about it, that when these swaps are done, there's probably 50, 100 different ways to do them. But I don't know that many people actually document all of that stuff involved with it. And so for me, because I haven't done this particular task before, I mean, I've done all kinds of builds and fabrication and all that. Doesn't shock me, but I don't have much in the background of this configuration. So as you saw, I was working on the header on the driver's side. That I feel like is resolved. Also, I was working on the transmission mount, and I feel like I have that 90% done. I had to stop with the video because I had so much time to make my videos happen. And so I'll point out that I did receive an order from Energy Suspension, and it's a set of these, actually 4 of these rubber biscuits, and the spacer that goes in the center, and then the washers that go on top and the bottom. So I have the components to finish up the transmission mount, and I'm formulating that even as we speak. The weather has gotten better. It's warmer, and the pollen is everywhere. If you're not familiar with the pollen in Georgia, it's like a green cloud that just blows around all day long. It's just thick. I washed vehicles today because just they needed washed, but there was so much green pollen puddles around. It's unbelievable. There's so much. It's all pine, mostly pine trees, and so we just get inundated with pollen from all these trees. So, and that makes it rough when you're in here and you're doing something, and you get the door open and just you're covered in pollen. Like here's I can't really, probably didn't show up very well, but this book is just covered with green pollen, and it's just sitting here on the desk. So anyway, let's see what we're going to talk about tonight and see who's here, and we'll go on. And the first one in is Rick Gain. After an exhausting weekend, I need some relaxation. Let's have some good car talk. Everybody hit the thumbs up button. Yes. Don't forget to do that. Thumbs up button, like. Even as pollen is getting, my voice is always rough anyway, I feel like. But that pollen, just makes a mess of you. Glad you're here, Rick. Vincent, evening all. Let's welcome spring in with some warm weather, good car talk with friends, and our own Mustang project. Yes. We all need a good Mustang project. Travis Holtman, good evening all. Good evening, Travis. One of my top patrons. Thank you. Terry Keithley. Good evening, everyone in Barry. Please hit the thumbs up and like button for Barry. Thank you kindly, Terry and Betty and the cats. I can't say enough, Terry. My heart goes out to you, seriously. I know you're dealing with a lot, and that's about all I can say. I know it's not easy. So, definitely bell for everybody and the cats. Troy Justin, hey, from coastal Georgia, the weather is getting warmer, which means yard work is beginning. Time to get the mower ready. Yeah, I've already mowed once. Mostly weeds. Got to knock the weeds down. And the ramps. We call them, I don't know they call them ramps or onions. We have onions that sprout up down here in the south all over the yards. Little skinny onions. Why? I don't know. But we have them. Robert, the Infernal Craftsman, evening all. Much nicer today after almost 100 yesterday. Ugh. Yeah, it's like 70 degrees right now here. And so, really nice. No complaints. Glad you're here. Jerry, howdy Barry, howdy all. It's nice that I was gone while it was hot. Robert would have been in such a foul mood, but he was super nice and got me donuts when he picked me up this morning. Oh, well, that's a big plus. I'll take donuts any day. David, the Bullheart guy. Hello, all. Good evening, Barry. Good evening, sir. Welcome. And Jerry says, have a good chat. Thank you, Jerry. George Crackle, happy Monday, Barry and company. Hope all are doing well. You all are doing well. Thank you, George. Yeah, the pollen is rough. It is rough. It gets us all. Richard Vogel, good evening, Barry. It was great to see you working on a cougar. Looking forward for more content on that project. Yes, I was doing some work on a cougar. Welcome, Richard. And that was one of the things that like I've talked about it before. During the week, Mustang, project is what I'm working on. And on the weekend, I try to work on either my stuff, or in this case, I had somebody we've been communicating for actually years. And he's had this cougar, and he wanted to have floor pans put in it, just the two side floor pans. And I said, well, I can't bring it in the garage, I have stuff going on. I've got the Mustang I'm working on. I'm not going to bring it in here and have it in the way. I said, if you want to bring it and it sits outside, then in the evening or on Saturday or whatever, when I have some time, I'll bring it in or work on it. And so I've been working on a 67 Cougar XR7 with a factory 4-speed in it. So I'm making some video on that, which is going on Patreon. That's where that video set is going. Because I'm trying to keep everything like with the Mustang stuff on my channel as it is right now. And so giving my patrons a little bonus of work that I'm doing on that cougar. So thank you, Richard, if I didn't already give you a bell. Nandu. Good evening, Barry and everyone. Hope you're doing well. The weather is good here in North Carolina, but the pollen is getting really bad. It is. It is very bad. I've had to adjust my schedule for, I tell you this, I try to walk every day. I try to walk 3 miles every day, regardless. Even if it's raining, I don't care. I want to walk. So I got up early this morning when, it was still a little bit of dew on the ground, whatever. Keep the pollen down, and got my walk in. And then, of course, soon after, wind starts blowing and get all kinds of stuff in the air. Sorry. Let me get a drink because my throat's not happy. Dave Tyson, good evening all. Evening, Dave. Glad you're here. Mr. Mikey, howdy gang. Howdy, sir. Ed Cucciarella, hello all. Happy Sunday/Monday. Thank you, Ed. Glad you're here. I know you're out in California. It's only 4:00 for you, so I'm glad you're able to make it. Gerhard, good evening, Barry and everyone. Mondays work better, I guess, is what. Okay. Well, I mean, we may just stay with Mondays. I don't know. We just have to. I know some people like it more than others. I feel like what I did see in the last couple Sundays that I did it, my viewer count was lower, but I think people were still learning about what I was trying to do. But we'll see. So welcome, sir. Gig'em Garage, Kevin Barth. Good evening, Barry. Glad to see you back on Mondays. Works better for me, at least. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Man. Sorry, Jerry from Jerry's Garage Money Pit. Good evening from Middle Tennessee. Thumbs up for Barry. Thank you, sir. Hope all is well with your Mustang project. Rusty's Restoration. Hello, Barry and all. Give a thumbs up. There you go. Thank you, Rusty. Harvey, Rally Cat Garage. Hello, Barry. Glad to see you tonight. Or good to see you tonight. Well, thank you, Harvey. I'm glad you're here. Gerhard, the only thing to mow in Canada is snow. Yeah, you can keep it. You're more than welcome. Keep it as long as you want. Don't worry about sending me any. Don't package it up. Just keep it. You can have it. Terry says, you may feel free to tell everyone. Okay, well, um, I think it's fair. Everybody knows that Terry has been on my live stream for a while, and Betty has been here with him on the live streams. And as he told me, she likes to watch the live streams. And unfortunately, her health was declining, and Terry has been the devout husband that he needs to be, and was taking care of her, and her time had come. So Betty's no longer with us, and like I said, my heart goes out to you, Terry. I can't imagine, but you also know that she's in a better place, as we all say. When people are suffering and having ailments and physical problems and all that sort of thing, there's a better place. So I'm glad you let me share it. I didn't want to step on any toes, but I'm glad you're here. So thank you, sir. Rusty's restoration, your problem solving on Fangled is impressive. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I've had some other people comment. I think somebody commented on the video, and a couple people have commented on the video that I just made, and talking about the header. And the concept that I had come up with of cutting it open and spreading it apart, they had suggested that I should have cut it on top and pinched it back together. And they said that way you wouldn't have as much weld. And they're right. That is one option. But the problem with that, because I run these scenarios in my head multiple times, the problem with that is you have to cut all of them, cut out the same width over and over and over and over, all 4 tubes, and then compress them so they all match, and you don't end up with it kind of messed up. By cutting it on the bottom, I can move that exactly where I want it, and I'm done. And that's why I did it the way I did it. And yeah, it adds some more weld to that backside. But the other part of that is you can look, for the most part, look at the top of the tubes, and they still look like they're the way they came. So I didn't want to have welds up on top. Just kind of the way I looked at it. But I've said it before. I like the challenges. I just don't like a lot of challenges all at the same time. But I do like the challenge of coming up with something to remedy a situation. So I kept thinking about the transmission mount and just kept bouncing ideas. And finally I just said, okay, this is the best option that I could come up with. And I've seen other variations. Revology does a variation, and I think that overall this is going to do a wonderful job. It's going to be super strong, still adjustable, and removable. So it kind of checks all those boxes that we need for this part of the project. I should point out as well, since we're talking about it, I have received, this is the U-joint from Borgeson. This is, what they sell with this kit. They may offer different versions of this. I don't know. I can tell you it's a 36 spline count on the inside here. It's a 3/4 DD shaft, and this shaft is also 3/4 of an inch. This one I got through Speedway Motors. This is by Sweet Manufacturing. And this is more, even though this is, I'm 100% confident this is super strong. I know this is used for like racing stuff, like actual race cars. And not that you can't use this, but the difference is kind of incredible. If I measured correctly, I think it's 300 thousandths difference in the size of this unit. So like if I measure across the main body of this thing, I'll come down here to the rounded section. This is 1.630 for that. 1.630. If I come to this one and I go to the widest point that I can get to, which is going to right across the middle here, I guess, This is 1 point. The other one's 1.630. This is 1.350. So 300 thousandths. Now you might think, oh, 300 thousandths, that's not much. Well, 300 thousandths, that's more than a quarter inch. And so just that amount of movement or thickness can make a difference in a lot of things. So I will say that I had this on the car, and it was still hitting the header as I expected it would, but I could get this one on, whereas this one, it wasn't going on for nothing. So what I need to do before I do any other tweaking on the header is get this in place, set the steering column back in, get a DD shaft. I have, a shorter piece, and maybe try to calculate it out to see if this is going to work. Because on the steering column, it ends up with this. It gets the big beefy one. And so really, I just got to see if I can do something. Otherwise, I'll end up getting a double version of this to help with making a turn, let's say. But I'll figure that out. I'll figure it out as I do. But yeah, thank you, Rusty. I mean, I do appreciate that because, there's lots of ways you can do this stuff, and I try to come up with the best way that I can with the materials that I have. Vincent Barry, is it necessary to apply strip caulk between the top side aprons and fenders? I haven't seen you do this, is why I'm asking. That is a great question. Let me get a drink of coffee. Okay. That mastic, I think is what they actually call it, or strip caulk, whatever. My understanding is that was for water. It wasn't like, I don't think it was made to make the fenders quiet, like keep them from squeaking. I don't think that was the intent. I think the intent was water. So because these cars don't have an inner fender liner, if you look at a Camaro, it has an inner fender and it has an outer fender. And so the inner fender is a big curved piece, right, that bolts to that outer section of the outer fender. So it fills that whole cavity up with a big curve. On the Mustangs, we all know you have your inner apron and you have the outer fender, and that's it. You have a plastic panel that goes behind the headlights, and you have a little plastic panel that goes to the back to deflect water from going up inside the fender, let's say. So my thought is that mastic material, that caulking, was meant as a water resistant type of thing. Meaning you put that in, you bolt the fender down, and then any water that slings up can't make it into the engine bay. Now, if it also takes out some of the squeak, that's fine too, but I really think it's more of a moisture barrier type of situation. For the stuff that I'm doing, typically I don't see the need for it. And the reason I say that is I don't see any of the cars that I've worked on or built being driven in the rain. So when these cars were manufactured, they were meant to be like daily drivers. They were meant to be driven in all kinds of weather and abused, and whatever happened to them happened to them. But as we have become loving these cars, and wanting to keep them alive, we don't typically do that, at least not intentionally. So that's why I don't see any value in putting that in. It can still go in. It's not a problem, but that's the way I look at it. And I don't think I gain anything because like I said, most things that I've ever done, worked on, or had, finished, they never went out into the rain anyway. So that's a great question, though. Thank you for that. Brian McKinney. Hello, everyone. Hello, sir. Welcome. Michael Pagliarini, evening all. I haven't been able to watch on Sundays. Been working on the 65, getting the inner wheelhouse fitting. Okay, well, that's good. That's always fun. Let's see. Simone is checking in, hooked on classics. Glad you're here, Simone. Hope all is well over there in the UK. Dave Tyson, sorry for your loss, Terry and Nandu. Condolences and prayers for Terry and family. David, condolences. Thank you all. George Crackle, Terry, no, I'm just a stranger, but my thoughts are with you. Appreciate all of you guys. Jerry, I'm sorry to hear that. Terry, Maya, and Robert's condolences to you. Richard Vogel, when NPD sells those same import floor pans you got from Summit, they recommend over the Spectrum Premium stuff. Why the flanges are bent the opposite way is puzzling. Yes, and that is something I talked about. As I've put on Patreon, the owner of the Cougar had bought a forward floor pan, like it went from the underneath the footwell to underneath the seat riser, because that's the bad area. That's where the water had gotten in the cowl, and that has already been addressed. Somebody else worked on the cowl and did all that stuff. So his assumption was, I'll get this shorter pan because the back half is good. But he doesn't do this stuff, so he's not familiar with these parts. And so, he said he was going to get the parts and bring them to me, and I thought, okay, I figured he was going to get a full pan. We didn't talk about it. And so as I started messing around with the stuff, I realized he had bought a Spectra pan. And I've said it before, in certain instances, I am glad that Spectra makes stuff. In certain cases. In most cases, I wouldn't buy it for nothing. Like, if it's the only piece available, I'll buy it and I'll make it work. But otherwise, I would not buy a Spectra Premium panel. They're poorly stamped. They are not primed. They're usually coated in oil. And they're just not made to the quality of even the most basic floor pan that you could pick up at Summit Racing from Goodmark, who is like, a completely secondary company as far as Ford parts go. So he'd got the Spectra Premium pan, and the first thing I noticed, as Richard points out, the flange on the floor pan, on a typical any pan for these cars, the flange on the outside is bent up. Spectra Premium bends them down. Why? I don't know. Someone suggested they might be doing it for the convertibles, but I'm thinking, how many people are doing convertibles that would want that pan anyway? Because on a convertible, you cut that off. You don't even use that flange because it goes to the bottom side of the inner rocker. So I don't get it. But anyway, the Spectra Premium, it's actually sitting outside now. And I'm not, if it ends up on the back of my scrap metal truck, I don't care, because it's not worth having. My opinion. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. I was wrong once before. Terry says she was a loyal Buckeyes fan. Yep. Rick Gain, Terry, very sorry for your loss. My condolences to you and your family. Thank you for that, Rick. Art Man checking in late from Minnesota. Better late than never. Richard Vogel, sorry for your loss, Terry. I'm sending you my condolences. Vincent, condolences, Terry. Thank y'all. Brian says, bigger is not always better. That's accurate. That is accurate. Jerry, I can imagine, Terry, you were blessed to have someone equally energetic about the Buckeyes. Robert, not so much. I always look forward to your initial greeting when watching Barry's stream. Gerhard, Revology has some good content related to the builds. Not nearly as detailed as yours, Barry, but some good insights to learn from. Okay. Dave Conville, good evening all. Evening, Dave. Don Gilly, Plastic guard, okay. Glad you're here, Don. Rick says, sorry, off topic, I had to scrap the Silverado. Going to look at an S10 later this week. Hopefully it works out. Need a truck. Okay, well, yeah, hopefully that's what you find. It's a good S10. Simone's still struggling with the damaged tendons in my shoulder. Ooh. No, no, that's not good. That's not good. Take care of that. Rick Barry, I'm sure you could do a fab quality floor pan from a stop sign. There's a good chance that may have happened in my past. May have. I won't guarantee it. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that people have patched stuff, and that was one of the things that I ran into on this Cougar is the driver's side was intact. Like somebody patched it, sort of. Like when I looked at the passenger side, it looked like it was okay until I realized there were no body lines, and then I realized it was all fiberglass body filler holding the floor together. And I was like, oh, that's not good. See, somebody else already put floor supports in this car. They worked on a cowl. They had patched up other stuff, but they didn't want to do the floor pans. And so that's why I'm doing those. And then on the driver's side, after I worked on started working on the passenger side, I was like, I wonder what shape the driver's side is in, because we didn't talk about it. And I went over and looked, and somebody had done the generic front section of the pan, and there's a gap underneath where they wedged it, like they cut loose the front edge of the seat riser and just shoved the pan underneath it and tack welded it in. It's not even fully welded. That drives me crazy. Whenever you're doing these floor pans, spot welds on the perimeter on the rocker panel, right? And I've seen people they weld like every 2 inches, trying to put the floor pan in. And I try to tell people, don't do that, because you're cutting apart a solid panel, and now you're putting it together with stitch welds, or staggered welds. You're not replacing the strength of that panel. And I try to emphasize that. So like when I saw this on this car, somebody had just literally, like I could see the tack weld, and they're like 3 inches apart, holding the floor pan. And I already know I could just pop that thing right off. And so whenever I put these in, I weld the whole perimeter. It welds all the way around except for the flange that meets the rocker panel, because those had spot welds. But I put the welds in the exact same spot as where they were when I take them out. So to me, it's just as strong as it was when it was built, if not stronger, because the metal is sometimes a little thicker. But anyway, I just get frustrated when I see stuff like that, and you just know that it was so poorly done and it's unsafe, and I just don't want. I just hate thinking about things that could happen. If in fact, I did a video years ago on the basket case Camaro, and in that video, I demonstrated that the floor pan that somebody had stitched into it, I stomped it out with my foot. I didn't even cut the welds. I just stomped it with my foot and kicked that whole floor pan out of that car. And on a Camaro, that's even worse, because the structure of the Camaro, the front frame rails are bolted to the car. And if you don't have all that structure solid, that thing could hit a bump and just collapse, just rotate up and kill somebody. And so I was so disappointed whenever I found that. But I fixed it. Whenever I ended up, that's car I had sold, and the guy wanted me to do some other work to it. Like he wanted to have a smooth firewall. And that's how I discovered the floor pan, because the floor pan had all been blended in with filler. Like I couldn't even see that it had been welded. And so whenever I started cutting loose firewall to put in a smooth one, that's when I was like, wait a minute, what is going on here? And yeah, had to fix it the right way. So it looks like I have some pictures that were sent to me. Let me see if I can download them real quick. I say real quick, you know how that goes. Nothing's real quick anymore. Whoops. So let me get caught up here. Let's see, Michael Pagler. Any of my condolences, Terry. Thank you. Artman, my dad put a cookie sheet in the floor pan in my mom's Chevette to keep her from flintstoning. He put 3 spark plugs in it too. Okay. Hey, cookie sheet will work. Rusty sent a pic of my 68 Custom major surgery. Okay, so here's the first picture where he's got something living in the cowl. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Hell, so you got some different. Let me pull down your comment because you've got something going on with those that front suspension. What is that? Is that like the Crown Vic thing? No, not Crown Vic. What is that? I've never seen that setup. That's really different. And let me show you the other pic. Here's the back. Oh no, sorry, that's the front. That's with the cowl removed. So yeah, major surgery. That's what has to happen. Simone, I am currently repairing a front valance for my Cortina. A few areas need new new metal, but for 50 plus years old, it is very solid. Well, that's a good thing. Yeah, I mean it's always just a little bit here, a little bit there. You know, cut out the piece, make a new one. Michael, I am thinking of getting a spot welder to weld the inner and outer wheelhouse. What's your thoughts on that? You're talking about just the mating flange? I mean, it's up to you. I don't think you'd really gain much. When I do them, I just drill holes, weld them shut, plug welds. Just get the same result. But if you feel like you need to justify getting a spot welder, you could do that. You could do that. Now, I don't know how well it would fit, though, on the forward part. Because, like the one I have, which is bulky and heavy, it's on the bench there somewhere. It's that Harbor Freight one. It's like the body is like this big, and then the jaws are like this big. That thing is heavy. I mean, it's probably 30 pounds or better. And so whenever you're trying to get it into a position to do that spot weld, it can be very difficult. It can be a challenge because you have to not only hold it, but you have to compress the handle to close the jaws and then squeeze the trigger to make it do its thing. So if you have 2 people, you might be able to do it. But I don't know if you can get it into that cavity where the window goes. So you're trying to get up on top of the, inside of there. It may be very, very difficult. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that would be very difficult. Rusty is saying that's a big block conversion. I'd say that's definitely, I would say, a big block conversion. Whoops. I've never seen that done, so I don't know what you're using for a cross member. But I mean, I can't see the whole thing. So I can see it's like a bolt-in, looks like a bolt-in piece. And I see the engine mounts, and it looks like maybe a secondary piece behind it. Maybe. I don't know. Oh, Rusty said his previous life is a drag car. Oh, okay. Okay. Terry says, I want to thank all of you very much. Betty and I have no kids. I am all alone. She loved Barry and the live stream. God bless you all. Thank you kindly. Thank you, Terry. I know it's like I said. I know it's rough. I know it's rough. I'm definitely not in your shoes. I've never been in your shoes. Um, to be able to fully relate to that, but you know, we've lost there's probably nobody on here that hasn't lost family members, so that we at least can connect at that level. But yeah, it's really hard for me to come up with something to say that's going to make it any better. I mean, it's not easy. It's just not easy, and my heart does go out to you. Um, Hold on a second. Oh, so Simone says, I've decided to buy a generator battery, 8 kilovolts or higher output is needed for the welder. Oh, okay. I've never tried using a generator to power a welder, so I have no insight on that. But that sounds like a good idea. Rusty says this car uses factory suspension. Well, I see the shock towers, so I definitely saw that. But I've never seen that configuration, so that's interesting. CJ Hoyt, good evening all. So sorry, Terry. Barry, hold on. Good evening all. So sorry, Terry. Barry, on a 66 coupe, would you relocate the battery to the trunk or leave it alone? Let me ask you why you're considering that. That's probably the first question. Most of the time when somebody puts it in the trunk, they're doing it for like drag racing as a weight transfer. What you end up with, you have to add really long battery cables. You got to secure them underneath somehow, hide them or, have them all the way in the back. You have to make some sort of a mount structure to hold the thing, bolt it down, keep it safe. But the benefit usually is somebody who drag races. So you get a weight transfer and it helps out a little bit. As far as having it in the front of the vehicle, I don't have a problem with it because there's nothing else I'm doing with that space. So I guess if you had another intent for that location or that opening, because it might look kind of odd when you think about it. If you take that battery out of that position, like say you're at a car show or something, you open the hood, and if you have even if you have a dressed up engine, and the battery's not there, it kind of leaves an empty space. It's like, well, something's missing, right? Not that that's a bad thing, but that's how I look at it. Is there a benefit? Am I going to gain anything by taking it from here to there, other than it's out of my sight type of thing? So look at it from those angles. For me, I'd leave it alone because I know I'm not going to be racing or anything with those. But that's just kind of my viewpoint on that. So that's a great question, though. Stang, hey Barry and all, we were talking on Patreon about the roof sections or something. My real name is Ronnie. What exactly were you talking about? My friend lives about 40 minutes from you. I have the roof that I cut off from the coupe that I started with. So it has those pieces, but I don't know that they would help you out much. I was going to send you some pictures of it, but it's because if you look back when I started on Fangled, I cut the body off, the main body off, and I kept everything together. So I have the A pillars, the roof structure, down to that deck filler panel, and it's not in the best of shape, and it's in better condition than what yours is in. But I was thinking, would you be able to benefit from the whole thing, the whole roof and everything? I don't know. So that's kind of what I was just wondering about. So we can talk more about that later on, but that's kind of where I was just thinking about what could you possibly use from that leftover stuff. That's all. Welcome. I'm glad you're here, Ronnie. Whoops. There we go. Simone says, sorry for your loss, Terry. Travis says, Carcraft did that for the 429 motors. Okay. I'd never seen one. I guess I never really paid attention to, or I haven't had the chance to see one in that setup. Travis says, sorry, Terry, for your loss. My thoughts are with you. Ronnie, prayers with you, Terry. Thank you all. Richard, do you think it makes sense to patch Mustang floors and save the metal that's still good? Well, let's explore that a little bit. Let me think about how you're phrasing that. So let's just say we're considering the idea of like this Cougar floor pan that I did, and somebody cut underneath the seat riser and went forward. I'm gonna just put that up there. So to me, that's, you don't gain anything by doing that. There's really nothing in my mind overall to gain from keeping the back half, unless it is completely solid and rust free and perfect, and you have a good panel. Like, I wouldn't use the Spectra Premium. I would probably get the other panel, the Goodmark brand or whatever it was, and cut it and very carefully put it back together so it at least looked like it was original. The problem you run into is all the effort with that, and then it's still going to be kind of obvious that you cut it up in the transmission tranny tunnel, the drive shaft tunnel, up at the front where the floorboard is. It's still going to be kind of noticeable. So, and I know that's kind of where we were going with the initial plan on that pan. But I'd rather have a solid pan that is stamped correctly, or as close to factory as I can get, and do the whole thing all the way back to the rear torque box area. Ideally, I would rather have a one-piece floor pan, not the whole frame, not the whole underside of the car, just the centerpiece that you have to bring in through the back window or through the windshield or whatever, get it into the car. That way you don't have any weld seams. Like, you have the tranny tunnel, and these floor pans, I mean, it's going to be fine. It's just you have to weld them together. But if you do that whole one piece, now you're doing spot welds on the perimeter. You're doing spot welds on top of the floor support, just like factory, and same thing in the back. And those pans usually go all the way up over into the rear seating area, or underneath the back seat. Ideally, that's what I would rather do in most situations, is do that whole thing. Now, saving this much of an original piece of metal doesn't matter, in my opinion, because you're already removing whatever was there anyway. Like, the front half is rusted out. There's no longer original metal there. At that point, you're just, I'd say you're fooling yourself, trying to think, I'm going to keep this much of a floor pan because it's original metal. You don't really gain anything. So I'd rather just do the whole length, or do the whole complete pan that takes care of all of that in one shot. So that's a good question, though. Simone, I usually stitch weld. I don't want to put too much heat in and warp the panel. Yeah, I don't do a continuous weld. I'll do a short 1/4 inch weld, skip 3 inches, 1/4 inch weld, skip 3 inches, and do the whole perimeter, and then come back and start doing in between those welds, in between those welds, in between those welds. And I end up making laps and filling in and letting it cool off as I go in between. Yeah, I would. I don't run a continuous. No, that wouldn't work. So yeah, definitely do it in staggered patterns. Richard says, "Thanks, Barry. That's good, solid advice." You're welcome. And you know, I know that there's budgets involved. There's different things that cause people to go different directions in what they're trying to do. Like on this cougar, when I started cutting loose, I was trying to do what he wanted, and as I got deeper into it, I realized this, like, the pan's no good, all this other things. We would have been further ahead from the start to start with a full pan instead of trying to section out one piece and then realize, oh, well, wait a minute, this thing doesn't even fit. There's a lot of things that come into how you end up picking the right panel or right thing to fix. Michael, my wife found that comment funny. I don't have a problem with plug welds. The wheelhouse is a two-piece type. Yeah, I just do plug welds. But again, if you need to justify getting a spot welder, by all means. Yeah, those I talked about it, I think, last week. Somebody else was doing a wheelhouse. I don't know if it was you or not. And they were talking about fitting it in. And I was talking about the original welds where this roller weld, and I think Robert pointed out, it's like the gas tanks. When they weld them together, they do a roller that compresses it and welds it together, makes it a solid piece. And the wheelhouses, if you try to separate those, it's rough. It is rough. So most of the time, I just cut that flange off, grind it down some, fit the new outer wheelhouse up against the inner, get a pattern of 2-inch plug welds, lay that out, and then just plug weld it back to that inner, and then seam seal the inside. Robert had pointed out that it's like the gas tank is waterproof, or that's why they did the wheelhouses, because it eliminated that chance for water to get through that seam. So that's why when I plug weld them, fill it up with seam sealer, make it smooth. But yeah, you should probably get yourself a spot welder. I'm with you. Simone says, I like doing plug welds. Yeah, plug welds are good. I mean, they do the job. I was looking at the seat risers. So if y'all have never ever pulled out a seat riser, you'll have spot welds front and rear, and then up against the inner rocker panel. But on the tranny tunnel, they just weld the edge, right on the edge where a piece of metal lays up against the tranny tunnel, like where my fingers are. They just weld little sections like 3 inches apart. So it's like a lap weld. And so, whenever I take all that apart, that's what I do. I put it back the same way. And that's a really nice weld to do. But yeah, plug welds. And, I stress this too with people whenever they do plug welds. I've seen people drill a 1/4-inch hole in a panel and then try to plug weld. And they weld it and they think they've done something. But if you've got a 1/4-inch hole and you're trying to feed wire into it, it's not about welding the hole shut. It's about welding to the parent metal on the back side first. You burn into that and then come out and fill in the secondary hole or the outer hole. So when I see somebody trying to do it with a 1/4-inch because they think they're going to save some material or they think they're going to, that's all they need, they're so wrong. And I do like a 5/16 hole. It's not much bigger, but it's enough that you can get in there and start making weld to the main parent metal on the opposite side, buzz that in, get it good and hot, and then bring it out and fill in the hole. and now you've done something. But I've seen other people do it with this 1/4 inch, and you could take it and hit it with a body chisel tool, and they just come apart. They don't hold. Also, Mrs. Pagliarini is checking in and says, "Don't encourage him." I'm not. I think he needs to get that spot welder with various jaw lengths. All the electrodes. He needs to get all those. Get a whole set. Get the whole thing. Travis says also they space them out like 3 inches. Yeah, I don't. 3 inches is to me pushing it. I try to go 2.25, but I never really measure. I only know from my experience that this is the spacing I need. Like I could take a Sharpie and be probably within 1/8 of an inch on every single one of my marks. Vincent, the only advantage that I see doing spot welding over plug welding is if you're trying to replicate the stock original look. And I agree with that. I do. And the hard part is making it look like the originals. That's the really hard part, because if you look really hard at a factory Ford spot weld, they're probably at least 5/16 of an inch, if not more, the surface area. Most of your spot welders don't get that big unless you grind down the electrodes to make them really, really fat, wide. You're not going to get that look, because I've done it. I've done it on other cars, and I'm like, oh, that's not exactly what I wanted. So you're right, but that's a big advantage. Although I did see somebody using a pencil. They were taking. It was a video where somebody was taking a like a pencil, and they sprayed. I don't know if it was like, it wasn't high build. It was like the sprayable body filler stuff. They sprayed it on a flange, and then they come in while it was still soft, and they were just pushing a pencil eraser about every 3 inches to make it look like spot welds. I was like, oh man, how solid is it? Or does it just look like it's solid? Yeah, Travis is not good on that. No. And it's like I did all these welds around the roof on Fangled and the back, and I actually made them closer, a lot closer than I normally would. And somebody was like, "You put too many plug welds in there." Nope, I didn't. This car is going to get raced. It needs to be as solid as I can make it. And so, like you're doing, like somebody's putting them 3 inches apart and barely weld them together. You take a hard turn with this car, you could pop the roof off. I mean, honestly, you could. But I've added welds in a much tighter spacing just for that reason. I want it to hold together under load. And so that's just the way I do it. Simone, do you use the name puddle welding? There is some people will. I think we don't use puddle welding. At least I don't. When I say plug weld, I'm talking about having a piece of metal and another piece of metal with a hole in it, put it together, and then fill in the hole, basically. Puddle welding, I think I've heard of a version of that, but I think that feels more like oxyacetylene, where you heat up a wire, like using a torch, and you kind of fill in the weld with the torch, and you do like a puddle. That's what I think of. But that's not what I normally refer to with mine. Simone, my spot weld drill bits are 5/16. Yep, that's the answer. George Burns, I think I remember you installing 3-point retractable seatbelts in one of your builds. How did that work out as far as you staying on your shoulder? Actually, I would have revised that. I did that on Jade. I put in, I think it was a kit from CJ Pony. I don't remember exactly. And if I were to do it again, I would change it because it was on my neck. It wasn't that it was out here on my shoulder like I'd want it. It ends up way up high. So I didn't like it for that. Now, I think they sell a version where it has like an extender or something. So instead of the mount point being up higher, lets it come down a little and changes that geometry a little bit. But yeah, it stayed on your neck. I mean, it would have kept you in the car. I'll say that. But as far as comfort, I didn't like it because it was too high up on my neck. So I would look at ones that had a variation, that were either, and in hindsight we can look at this, take the plug out of the roof and bring it forward 2 inches, weld it back in. Now that's going to bring that center point, it's up here, brings it forward slightly and lets it come more across the top of your, the broader part of your shoulder. So that was the only complaint that I had with those, but they did the job. So, good question, George, by the way. Michael, too funny, my welder has a timer for doing spot welds, and I use a 5/16 myself. There you go. Good answer. Rick, Barry, would you work for Revology if they asked? I don't know. Depends what they offer to pay me, to be honest. Because for me to work for them, I'd probably have to move to Florida, which isn't such a bad thing, I guess. But it's not really something I've thought about. But they would have to pay me pretty well to do it. I'm pretty happy where I'm at. But that's a good question. Richard says Barry's advice on tools leads to marriage problems. No, it doesn't. No, not at all. I'm encouraging a successful marriage. Ronnie, I sent you an email of the gap between the floor and floor support. It appears someone did a patch and didn't weld back to the floor support. Think I drill holes and plug weld the floor to help. Let me see if that. What did you send that? Did you send it to my Joe Daddy email, or did you send it to Patreon? Because I don't know that I can pull it up from Patreon. So he says there's a gap between the floor and floor support. It appears someone did a patch and didn't weld back to the floor support. Yeah, typically what I've seen with that is there should be a series of holes through the floor that line up with the floor support. So you see my videos. I'll trace the floor support from underneath, and then when I take that patch out, I know where I can drill my holes. So it makes it a little more challenging if you're doing it with the floor piece still in the car. You need to know exactly where you're drilling, but you probably end up with 5 or 6 holes on that floor support that you can drill. If there's a gap there, you can drill those. It won't be too big a deal. But yeah, definitely need to weld those together. Robert, I've also heard plug welds referred to as rosette welds. Yes, rosette welding as well. That's another way to look at it. Ronnie says, weren't you just talking about the idea of for a removable cowl? Wouldn't a removable dash be amazing? Well, yeah, they would be. I was looking at the idea of the core support, the radiator support, making it removable and seeing if I can figure that out. But The cowl you could do. They did it later on, at least the grill portion on the 69. You could take it out, but that's such a structural part of the car. It has to stay together. Michael says no, not after 30 years. Talking about the marriage thing. Travis, your number one tool is a spot weld hole cutter. I love mine. Drilling holes is crappy. Yes, it is. I had one of those for a long time at the body shop. It has the plunger with the back piece, and you could come out and do it. I should probably get another one of those someday, but I haven't. Brian McKinney, try being a tool man. You have a few of those conversations. Yeah, I'll bet. Art man, if you replicate factory spot welds, are you obligated to set all the panels 1/4 inch off? Yeah, I think it's mandatory. This looks factory. Nothing lines up. Yeah, pretty consistent. Okay, we've been at this for an hour. My throat's tired. I need to get in the house and get something to eat. Again, my condolences to Terry. Losing a spouse that you've had for many, many, many years is rough. I don't even want to think about that day ever happening for any of us. But it's unfortunate. It's also part of life, as we know. So hopefully there's a better tomorrow. So hang in there, Terry. But that's going to be it for tonight. I probably will be back next Monday based on what's going on with family stuff. And so that we'll just consider, being on Monday next week. And then the following week, as I said, I'll be in Pennsylvania visiting my family, my parents, my wife's parents, seeing how my mom's doing. And, there's some things we have to address moving forward with their situations as well, which is, again, stuff we never want to think about or have to deal with, but it's a fact of life as well. But that'll be it for tonight. So great night. Thank you all for being here and prompting questions and subject matter. And I look forward to getting a new video out this week and also being back on next Monday. So until next time, take care of yourselves. See ya.